So this is going to be on how to find and feel the correct technique for striking. I'm going to specifically do kicking. I don't have very strong kicks, I don't have very strong legs, but so this principle, this technique will work for punching. I'll probably do a little bit in the video. But so this is how you find the correct energetic kinetic chain technique for the movement pattern. Then you need to drill that in so you learn how to fire it as if it's your primary thing and not a technique. So usually that requires a lot of different drilling, but if you know what you're doing, you can reprogram yourself pretty quickly. And then the other thing is that if you're working striking and punching, you have to be doing body hardening, because even if you do the correct technique, if you throw a, I don't know, if you throw a sledgehammer at a wall and the wall is stronger than the sledgehammer, it doesn't matter. So there's a certain amount of like pressure that you need to be able to generate and take. So that you know, punching rice, moving the hand and the feet in sand, rolling Coke bottles on your shins, kicking stuff. You have to get the physical body has to be able to take some of this force. If you're doing this technique though, the technique will place you within the water of the body. It will place the majority of the inertia of your movement will be contained in the water. And so that will distribute, that will absorb, that will transmit energy. And so that'll take a lot of strain off of the physical body, but it's still kind of a, there's no way around it. You have to do body hardening stuff to be able to punch or kick, right? So the correct punching technique, the correct kicking technique is one where you're, I think in karate or in kung fu, you project they call it projecting your spirit. All that is like, so if you were to sit and do standing stuff, you sit until you feel your being as a single presence, and it's like it's got wave patterns. It's like a wave. It's like a mass or a bulge or accumulation of being or of perception in perception, and so it flows, right? And so when people are in the flow state, you're moving your being. That's what people like doing when they're dancing, is that if you move to the rhythm and being are very close to each other, so the music helps you feel your being, and then people have fun kind of like moving from being instead of moving via a technique. So the same thing has to be going on when you're fighting. And so to throw a punch, your being has to go into or through the other person's being. So the thing that you feel when you're dancing, the thing that you see in dancers and the thing that you feel when you're dancing, that is the thing that has to go through or into their body. And so they're a wave and you're here, and so you have to move your dance being, your rhythm, your tempo forward, and it has to go through the other person. And so when you do that, the body surfs it, just like it surfs it when you're dancing. If you're a spirit, so you can't have any fear, right? Or you know how you can't dance on the dance floor or whatever if you have fear? If there's any sort of contraction in a fighting, this thing doesn't happen either, so the spirit doesn't go through the wave. And if you look at the event energetically, if somebody's scared, it's a bunch of waves pulling them in every single direction, so there's not really, the body's not being pushed with a single-mindedness. So you're here and you have to really study the event of like, okay, I want to get my being, you know, into that space where their head would be. And so you send out a wave, and you'll notice that the body will follow it. So it's like if you want to do a leg kick, I have to somehow get a wave there. So what do the Taekwondo people get all fancy? But you're just sending, like if you wanted to have it from the leg up, you're seeing, it's usually just, it's a direct emanation, and then your body has to follow it. And if you send too much of your being forward, it'll pull you forward, which isn't necessarily bad. Like maybe you want to go straight through, but it requires a step. So just all the basic, when you see what's going on in terms of like that, so this is the same thing, right? So if you got moving back and forth rhythmically, fluidically, you can see that this forward direction of your being is where you want the kick to go. And so just let it go. And you'll find that it pulls, poof. So you fire that, and you start to fire it from the wave, like from the rhythm, the dance, the whatever, instead of extending a a limb, you're just sending waves of being from different heights. Like if you wanted to send it, the wave of being is going to come out of you somewhere. You can send it and when a punch or a kick snaps at the end, that's because you've projected your spirit, your being in it and it crashes. If it's timed right, it'll as it gets far away from you, it gets shallower and shallower and shallower, and at a particular distance, it'll crash. And that's exactly what you want to like discombobulate somebody, and that's seen as like a snappy kick or a snappy punch. And so on the level of being, like the body and the technique is on top of your being. So like when you're doing it from being, as long as you hit, and usually you do hit, and when this is a materialistic, like I'm being very materialistic and saying what's happening just with you experience this as decision, fear, intent, single-mindedness, presence, groundedness. Like that's how people usually describe this. But if you realize that all those words that you normally see are simply descriptions of the behavior of the body water, and the behavior of the body water internally is happening exactly like it does internally. So when you decide to go somewhere, like through their head, it's creating a wave, usually from about right here, and then the body rides it, and it's identical to dancing or music, except so this riding this and seeing this is what is called the I would say it's the art of martial art. And I've always been so fascinated just by like how things work, but I've never really gotten very good at anything. And so there's really like it's cool to think about this stuff, but at the same time, like if you're ever like doing it in an application, it's like all of it completely turns off anyway, because all this stuff is just, it is manipulated by single-minded intent. It's manipulated by the story and the meaning of like your entire life, whether or not like your spirit's aligned enough to like win this particular fight or to learn this particular technique. It's like it's yeah, you can understand exactly what's going on in a particular art or something like that, but it's the world, like the whole world is the totality of your being. So like um, it's just kind of a curiosity. It's just the like when anybody understands it, and people do understand it or whatever, it's so far beyond the level of language that like if you're like me and capable of like, or even having a desire to want to talk about it, it's like that's not a very deep area. It's like a swimming pool area or a or whatever. So there's like or the tidal area is kind of the area that you can talk about, and then like stuff like if you want to go deep and kind of do big wave surfing, like you see like pro athletes of any sort, that skill is coming from like a very, very, very deep place. And more often than not, if they're going for the biggest extreme skill or the best, it's like it's more often than not, it's best to just go hard and to. I mean, you kind of listen to people, but also like there's no understanding that way. Like you could be around other people who are trying to master it, like in proximity, but there's not a And yeah, it's mostly like technique. Like if you're gonna look for technique, like this is separate from just going out and doing it, actually sparring. This this does translate pretty well into the heavy bag. You can figure out how to like get get comfortable really emanating and having those emanations go out and like impact something on the heavy bag. But yeah, otherwise it's pretty simple. You just have to like make your limbs hard enough to like run into another person on purpose, and then find, study dancing first, or get that feeling of rhythm, and then to contemplate and kind of really think about how do I send that rhythm into the other person's body, is what you're trying to do. You're fundamentally trying to put your rhythm into the other person's body, literally. Like they say, you have to disrupt their song, you have to disrupt their dance, you have to disrupt their musicality. It's all talking about the exact same thing. So in fighting, a strike is like the projection of your rhythm. Like you're throwing rhythm, you're throwing the movement of being, like somebody would throw a rock as a weapon. So like martial arts is like the rhythm, what musicians and dancers experience as rhythm is the weapon, is the instrument of martial arts. And when you hit somebody with that rhythm, then the body responds to that rhythm appropriately. So it looks like you did a punch, or it looks like a kick, or a throw, or whatever. But the rhythm went first, the spirit went first. And then if the thing is going to impact, the rhythm hits them, and it's the wave of being, it's the energy, it's the intent. It's the intent. You're hitting them with intent. And then this is everything that's happening is like the behavior of the body water. So there's like waves in it, there's currents, there's electricity, and all that. It's like, it's kind of wrong to even separate it or tease it out or talk about it like the way I am. Even though it's like 100% right.